You are 4 years old. It is the spring of 1804 in London. Too young to understand society. Too young to understand reputation. Too young to understand that nearly every adult around you is already shaping the woman they expect you to become. The lessons begin quietly. A hand on your shoulder when you slouch. A gentle correction when you speak too loudly. A reminder to sit properly when guests visit. Nobody gathers the family together and announces the rules. You simply absorb them. Day after day. Year after year. You learn that how you behave matters. You learn that people are always watching. When visitors arrive, your mother expects good manners. When neighbors call, your appearance reflects upon the family. When relatives visit, they notice everything. How you sit. How you speak. How you greet people. How you carry yourself. You begin hearing the same phrases over and over. Sit up straight. Lower your voice. Mind your manners. Say thank you. Smile. Be polite. Be agreeable. For now, these seem like ordinary childhood lessons. But they are preparing you for something much larger. Because in Regency England, a young lady's behavior is never considered entirely her own. It reflects upon her parents, her family, and eventually her future. You notice the differences between yourself and the boys around you. Your brothers can return home with muddy boots. They can climb walls, race through fields, speak impulsively. Sometimes they are scolded. Often they are forgiven. You, however, are corrected much sooner. A young lady is expected to possess self-control, even before she fully understands what that means. As you grow older, the lessons become more deliberate. Your clothes matter. Your posture matters. Your manners matter. The way you greet guests matters. The way you leave a room matters. You begin hearing a question that seems to follow every decision. What will people think? It appears everywhere. When choosing a dress. When visiting friends. When speaking in company. When attending social gatherings. What will people think? The question becomes so common that eventually it no longer feels like a question at all. It feels like a rule. By the time you reach 8 or 9 years old, your education expands. Not in the same way as many boys. Your brothers may be prepared for universities, professions, politics, or business. You are being prepared for society. Dancing lessons teach grace. Music lessons demonstrate refinement. Drawing develops taste. French displays education. Embroidery cultivates patience. Each accomplishment adds another layer to the ideal image of a respectable young lady. The goal is not merely knowledge. It is presentation. You are expected to be talented, but not boastful. Intelligent, but not intimidating. Accomplished, but never proud. Every quality exists within invisible boundaries. Too little accomplishment reflects poorly upon you. Too much confidence reflects poorly upon you as well as your family. You are expected to find the perfect balance and make it appear effortless. The adults around you rarely describe these expectations as restrictions. They call them virtues. Good breeding, proper conduct, good sense. But the message remains the same. There is a correct way to be a woman, and an incorrect way. Books reinforce these lessons. Conduct manuals become increasingly popular during the period. Writers publish detailed advice explaining how young ladies should dress, speak, think, and behave. In 1811, a guide called The Mirror of the Graces offers instructions on feminine elegance and proper behavior. Such books promise to help women navigate society successfully. But they also reveal something else. The rules are so extensive that entire books are required to explain them. How to walk. How to sit. How to converse. How to behave in company. How to avoid appearing proud. How to avoid attracting criticism. And society is always ready to judge whether she succeeds. As you approach your teenage years, another lesson begins to emerge. Reputation. At 13 and 14, you start noticing conversations that once seemed distant. Whispers about unsuitable behavior. Stories about scandals. Warnings about girls who became the subject of gossip. Adults become more cautious, more watchful, more protective, or perhaps more controlling. The distinction is not always clear. You hear new instructions. Be careful. Do not encourage attention. Do not appear forward. Do not give people a reason to talk. Your actions now carry greater consequences. A careless remark can be remembered. An awkward interaction can be discussed. A poor reputation can spread surprisingly quickly. You begin to understand something uncomfortable. Society judges young women and young men differently. A young man may recover from mistakes. A young woman may find those same mistakes following her for years. Fair or unfair, that is the reality you are expected to navigate. By 15, the rules no longer feel theoretical. They have become habits. You know how to walk into a room, how to greet visitors, how to conceal annoyance, how to remain polite when bored, how to smile when expected, how to avoid drawing the wrong kind of attention. You have spent years learning what society demands from a respectable young lady. And now another milestone approaches. Everything has been leading toward this moment. The lessons, the accomplishments, the manners, the expectations. Soon at 16 you will step into society yourself. Soon you will make your debut. And for the first time, all those years of preparation will be tested. The evening arrives. Your dress has been chosen carefully. Your hair arranged precisely. Every detail inspected. Family members offer advice. Some helpful, some repetitive, most impossible to forget. You enter a brightly lit room filled with music, conversation, and people you've never met. For a moment it feels exciting. After all, this is what you've been preparing for. Years of lessons. Years of accomplishments. Years of learning how to become a proper young lady. Now you are finally 16 and get to enjoy society. At least that is the theory. The reality is slightly more complicated. Because the moment you enter society, a new objective quietly appears. Marriage. Nobody announces it. Nobody gathers the guests and makes a speech. Yet suddenly every introduction, every conversation, and every dance seems connected to the same destination. Finding a suitable husband. And everyone seems determined to help. Including people you have never met. Somehow complete strangers become deeply invested in your romantic future. More invested than you are. You quickly discover that Regency courtship is not entirely private. Or even mostly private. Imagine trying to date while accompanied by relatives, neighbors, family friends, and several dozen amateur detectives. That is approximately the situation. The ballroom becomes the center of your social life. At first glance, it appears magical. Hundreds of candles. Music echoing through the room. Silk gowns. Military uniforms. The constant movement of dancing couples. But beneath the glitter sits something else. A system. Every interaction means something. Every gesture is observed. Every conversation is interpreted. Every dance carries consequences. Before a gentleman may dance with you, proper introductions are expected. You cannot simply walk across the room and introduce yourself. That would be far too easy. Instead, another person performs the introduction. A social passport is required before the conversation even begins. You accept this at first. After all, society must have its customs. Then the rules keep coming. And coming. And coming. There are rules for introductions. Rules for visits. Rules for letters. Rules for conversation. Rules for courtship. Rules for dancing. Especially dancing. One dance with a gentleman may indicate interest. 2 dances may indicate serious interest. A 3rd dance? Now people begin talking. Quite a lot. Which strikes you as odd. Nothing about the 3rd dance feels dramatically different from the 2nd. The music is the same. The floor is the same. The gentleman is still the same gentleman. Yet somehow society has decided that one additional dance transforms the situation into public news. Nobody can adequately explain why. They simply insist that it does. You are beginning to notice a pattern. Many Regency rules survive not because people understand them, but because people are afraid of ignoring them. The pressure becomes even greater at places like Almack's, the most exclusive assembly rooms in London. Receiving an invitation is considered a triumph. Being excluded can feel like social exile. Imagine a nightclub where entry determines your entire social reputation. Now remove the music. Add aristocrats. And increase the judgment by approximately 500%. The patronesses who control admission possess extraordinary influence. One woman can decide whether another belongs. Or does not. You begin to wonder why a room full of dancing people requires more screening than a military operation. Nobody seems eager to answer. The ballroom, however, is only one part of the puzzle. The rules follow you everywhere. You are generally not expected to spend time alone with a gentleman. Privacy creates opportunity. Opportunity creates suspicion. Suspicion creates gossip. And gossip spreads faster than almost anything in Regency England. A respectable young woman is expected to have company. Family, friends, servants, chaperones. Sometimes people whose entire purpose seems to be preventing interesting stories from happening. The chaperone becomes a permanent feature of your existence. Watching, listening, observing, protecting your reputation, and occasionally making conversations significantly less enjoyable. You begin to suspect that adults spend an extraordinary amount of energy preventing young people from having conversations, particularly the conversations they most want to have. Courtship becomes a balancing act so complicated it borders on absurdity. You must appear friendly, but not too friendly, interested, but not eager, confident, but not forward, reserved, but not cold, available, but not available enough. The target remains invisible. Yet somehow you are expected to hit it perfectly every time. Outside the ballroom, matters improve very little. One of the most fashionable places to be seen is Hyde Park. Carriages circle the drives. Riders pass on horseback. Pedestrians stroll along carefully chosen routes. Everyone watches everyone else. The entire experience resembles a giant social theater. Except the audience and performers are the same people. Appear in the right place and people notice. Appear with the wrong person and people notice. Fail to appear at all and people notice that too. You begin wondering whether anybody is actually enjoying themselves or is it just a judging competition. Even moving through London comes with restrictions. Certain streets are considered inappropriate for respectable women. Certain districts are avoided. Certain destinations invite questions. A gentleman may wander almost anywhere. A lady is expected to know where she should not be. Your freedom exists. Technically, it simply comes with an instruction manual large enough to stun a horse. By now, a troubling realization is beginning to form. The rules are not occasional. They are everywhere. Who you speak to, who you dance with, where you go, how long you stay, who sees you, who talks about you afterward. For years, people told you these rules existed to protect you. Now you are beginning to wonder whether they exist to control you. And once that thought enters your mind, it starts to eat at you. Because beneath the music, manners, and carefully supervised courtship lies another world entirely. A world where families discuss your future. Where fortunes matter. Where marriages are negotiated. Where reputations become currency. And where other people may have already started planning your life. If everyone is already watching your every move in public, what happens once you're inside society's drawing rooms? That thought follows you into the drawing rooms. At first, they seem harmless. Comfortable chairs, tea trays, polite conversation. Nothing like the crowded ballrooms of the London season. But it does not take long to realize that the ballroom is where society performs. The drawing room is where society makes decisions. The dancing happens in public. The judging happens in private. At 19, you begin noticing it everywhere. A gentleman leaves the room. The conversation changes. A young lady receives extra attention at a ball. Suddenly everyone has an opinion. Someone's engagement is rumored. Speculation spreads through the room before the couple has even confirmed it. The subjects are always familiar. Money, marriage, connections, reputation. Who is suitable? Who is not? Who is rising? Who is falling? And increasingly you realize people are discussing lives the way merchants discuss investments, including yours. At first, this surprises you. Then it irritates you because nobody seems to notice how casually they reduce people to assets and opportunities. Then it becomes impossible to ignore. You had assumed society was preparing you for adulthood. Instead, society appears to be sorting people, evaluating them, positioning them, like pieces on a game board. You soon discover that marriage is not simply a romantic decision. It is a financial one, a social one. Sometimes it feels as though the romantic portion was added later as decoration. A gentleman is rarely discussed as a person. He is discussed as an income, and estate, a future. You hear numbers constantly. £2,000 a year, £5,000 a year, £10,000 a year. You begin suspecting some mothers can detect annual income faster than a hunting dog can detect a fox. A useful skill, apparently. Because everyone seems impressed by it. Nobody asks whether he is interesting. Which feels like a remarkable oversight. The same scrutiny applies to you. Your family. Your accomplishments. Your reputation. Everything becomes information. Everything becomes value. You are not merely entering society. You are entering a market. And the realization makes you deeply uncomfortable. The pressure grows with every passing season. At 17 you are young. At 18 still young. At 19 questions begin appearing. At 20 married friends begin appearing with alarming frequency. At 21 every dinner invitation begins feeling suspiciously strategic. Your mother now treats every unmarried gentleman within a 20-mile radius as a developing opportunity. Not an emergency. Not yet. But contingency plans are clearly being drafted. The strangest part is that everyone behaves as though this urgency is perfectly normal. You begin asking questions. Why must marriage happen so quickly? Why should reputation matter more than happiness? Why does everyone speak as though a woman's future begins and ends with finding a husband? The answers are rarely satisfying. Because society expects it. Because that is how things are done. Because respectable women do not ask such questions. That last answer particularly irritates you. It feels suspiciously convenient. Whenever a rule becomes difficult to explain, people suddenly become very interested in changing the subject. Then you learn about entailment. And suddenly many things make more sense. And much less sense. Some estates cannot pass to daughters. Only male heirs. Even if daughters exist and sons do not. Even if those daughters have spent their entire lives there. You can grow up in a house. Know its every room and creaking floorboard. Know every garden path. And still lose it to a distant male cousin who appears in family conversations roughly once every 3 years. You laugh when you first hear it. Surely nobody actually believes this is reasonable. Nobody laughs with you. The room becomes quiet. Not thoughtful quiet. Alarmed quiet. The kind of quiet that suggests you have just said something deeply inappropriate. For the first time you realize something important. People are not defending these rules because they make sense. People are defending them because questioning them is dangerous. That realization changes everything. The questions become harder to suppress. Why should a stranger inherit simply because he is male? Why should your future depend upon marriage? Why should so many decisions about your life belong to other people? Nobody answers. They simply look uncomfortable. Which is answer enough. And that is when the rebellion begins. Not with scandal. Not with headlines. Not with some dramatic act of defiance. But with questions. You begin staying in conversations longer than expected. You ask follow-up questions when people clearly wish you would not. You express opinions. You disagree. The reactions are immediate. An aunt blinks in surprise. A family friend changes the subject. A gentleman looks amused. Your mother looks horrified. You discover something fascinating. People are far more comfortable with a woman making a mistake than making an argument. The first time it feels accidental. The second time amusing. By the third time you begin doing it on purpose. A dangerous development. Then comes the first real test. One evening you dance with the same gentleman a third time. Not because you are in love. Not because you are planning an elopement. Because you are curious. Society insists this is a terrible idea. You would like to know why. The answer arrives the next day. Apparently half of London now believes there is an understanding between you two. An understanding that neither of you remembers creating. The gossip spreads faster than the actual event. And for the first time you see the machinery working. Not rumors. Control. The realization unsettles you. Then angers you. The walls begin closing in. Not physically. Socially. Every path appears planned. Every choice appears guided. Every expectation appears waiting. Marriage. Children. Respectability. The script has already been written. Your role is simply to perform it. For years you were told these rules existed to protect you. Now you are beginning to suspect they exist for another reason. Protection does not usually require this much supervision. Protection does not require these many witnesses. And neither does it require entire rooms of people discussing your future as though you are not present. Once you see it, you cannot stop seeing it. At dinners, assemblies, family visits, at every conversation about your future. The same message repeats itself. Behave. Conform. Marry well. Do not attract attention. Do not step outside the lines. And for the first time in your life, you begin imagining what would happen if you did. Not because you enjoy scandal. Not because you are reckless. But because nobody has managed to answer a simple question. Why? Why this rule? Why this expectation? Why this future? Why should other people decide what your life becomes? The questions keep growing. The answers keep shrinking. And soon, asking questions no longer feels dangerous. Obeying without answers does. And once that happens, the real trouble begins. At first, people dismiss your questions. They assume you will grow out of them. That eventually you will stop arguing. Stop pushing. Stop asking why. Instead, you become more difficult to predict. You refuse introductions to gentlemen who clearly interest your mother more than they interest you. You stay too long in conversations. You express opinions too openly. You become known for saying things that respectable young ladies are generally expected to think quietly. Then one evening you make the mistake of saying one of those things out loud. You ask why a woman's entire future should depend upon securing the approval of people who barely know her. The room falls silent. Not the kind of silence that invites reflection. The kind that warns you that everyone has understood exactly what you meant. The argument that follows lasts less than 10 minutes. The consequences last much longer. After that, something changes. Your family stops trying to persuade you. Which is somehow worse. Because now they have moved on to planning. Dinner invitations become strategic. Social gatherings become carefully orchestrated. Every gathering seems designed to place you beside a suitable gentleman. A gentleman with prospects and connections. A gentleman approved by everyone except the person expected to marry him. You refuse one. Then another. And another. At first, your family is frustrated. Then embarrassed. Then alarmed. You begin hearing a word more frequently. Reputation. Your reputation. The family's reputation. The reputation of future siblings. Future marriages. Future opportunities. The strange thing is that the conversations are no longer about your happiness. As if they ever were. Though to be fair, everyone seemed deeply committed to your happiness right up until it became inconvenient. They are about consequences. What people will say. What society will think. What damage you might cause. You begin realizing something uncomfortable. Many people do not fear your unhappiness. They fear your independence. One afternoon, after a particularly unpleasant argument, you discover several upcoming visits have been cancelled. Letters arrive less frequently. Conversations stop when you enter rooms. Decisions are being made without your participation. Nobody calls it punishment. Nobody has to. The message is perfectly clear. Behave. Return to the path prepared for you. Stop making things difficult. Instead, you become more certain than ever. Because by now the problem is no longer marriage. The problem is choice. You spent years believing society wanted women to marry. Eventually, you discover that is not entirely true. Society wants women to marry correctly, preferably before they develop opinions. Which is a very different thing. Then, in the middle of everyone else's plans for your life, you meet a man who asks what you want. And the problem with him is not his character. Quite the opposite, actually. He is thoughtful, kind, intelligent. He listens when you speak, answers your questions instead of avoiding them, and treats your opinions as though they actually belong to you. Which, surprisingly, is rarer than expected. The problem is that he is the wrong choice. Perhaps his family is considered unsuitable. Perhaps his social standing is lower. Perhaps his connections are unimpressive. Perhaps there are religious differences. Whatever the reason, society disapproves almost immediately. Your family disapproves even faster. He is not the wealthiest man you meet. Not the most connected. Not the most impressive on paper. Which is unfortunate. Because he is the first one you actually love. And for the first time in your life, you are faced with a decision that belongs entirely to you. Not your parents. Not your relatives. not society. You. When you finally tell your family that you intend to marry him, the discussion ends exactly as you feared. Not with celebration. Not even with disappointment. With outrage. Because for the first time in your life, you are not asking permission. You are informing them of a decision. The fallout is immediate. Relationships fracture. Certain relatives stop speaking to you and an extension to your family. Doors close. Some permanently. People who spent years planning your future suddenly have no place in it. And yet, you marry him. Not everyone approves. Some never do. That is the price. But something else also happens. For the first time in your life, the choices are yours. The house may be smaller. The fortune may be smaller. The social circle may be smaller. Yet the life somehow feels larger. You have children. You raise them differently. You answer their questions. Even the inconvenient ones. Especially the inconvenient ones. Years later, when society looks back on your life, opinions remain divided. Some call you stubborn. Some call you reckless. Some call you improper. You suspect those people would have disliked you regardless. But there are other words too. Independent. Determined. Unconventional. And perhaps the most dangerous word of all. Free. Because in the end, refusing to behave was never really about dancing too many times with the same gentleman. Or asking uncomfortable questions. Or ignoring a few social rules. It was about something much bigger. The right to decide what your own life would become. A surprisingly radical idea in Regency England. And one that remains difficult for some people to accept even now.